Ciao ragazzi, my name is Anthony. Welcome back to the Serie A Roundtable here on Football Worldwide. It's exciting because it's been a while and I'm happy to catch up with a friend from Melbourne. Adam, how you doing, man?
Anthony, good to be back, mate. The race is heating up, so that's
Definitely.
So looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, it's heating up on all fronts, man. Not only the title race, but relegation. The European spots are starting to really come into fruition. So I'm pretty excited about this one, man. So Matchday 27, things did not go so well for the Milan sides, dropping points left, right, and center. Milan at home to Udinese. We'll have a little bit of talk about that VAR incident that, really could come back to bite Milan on the ass. I'm not too sure where Adam sits on that. I'm looking forward to that. Wishing our friend Anthony was here to join to talk about that as well. The Grifone held Inter in what was, from my point of view, a very, very disappointing goalless draw and a very disappointing outing. Salernitana shared the spoils with Bologna. Dusan Vlahovic made sure that he disposed of Empoli on his own. Sassuolo had another impressive game. There he got 2 on the bounce now to beat Fiorentina. Ivan Juric's team lost at home to Mazzari's Cagliari, who are putting on a lot of points in this part of the season. Verona and Simeone disposed of Venezia 3-1, a hat-trick there. Spezia lost to your boys Roma with a controversial, well, not really controversial, but a definite 98th minute penalty, I think it was. And Adam will talk a little bit more about that soon. Napoli pipped Lazio right at the depth in a fantastic game that really, really brings Spalletti's men back into this whole Scudetto conversation properly. And Atalanta and Gasperini had one of their makeup games and they absolutely trounced Sampdoria. Let's start with a player that I was talking about in preseason. Toon Koopmeiners, and he has been absolutely brilliant for Atalanta. He had 2 goals, a dobletta on his birthday. Good for him, man, and good for Atalanta. Adam, what were you saying about this performance? Because Sampdoria, with a little bit of rejuvenated energy with Gianpaolo back at the helm, this was a very, very good game for Gasperini and his boys, considering their injuries still.
Yeah, look, it was a game that you expect Atalanta to win at the end of the day. But, Sampdoria, another team that's hot and cold, and they have been that way all season. So I didn't know what to expect going into this game. But Atalanta was having that stronghold at home. Got the goods in the end. But Koopmeiners had a really good game. 2 great goals. I mean, really composed for that second one as well, streaming into the box. But they all contributed in this game, I felt. And it was back to that Atalanta of old. We can say this about every team at the moment, that there's inconsistencies everywhere, but we've seen it a lot with Atalanta this season. They started really well, then they had that little slump, and now they're starting. I don't know if this is they've turned the corner, but this game certainly, if you look at this game isolated to the rest of them, they were just a real powerhouse in this game and got the points at home.
The real question is, mate, Atalanta, with the form of Juve and Vlahovic and the likes of Napoli, Milan, Inter, still thinking they're closer to a Scudetto battle than a top 4 battle, meaning they probably won't drop as many points between the 3 of them. Atalanta need to be picture perfect from here until the end of the season, man. What do you see happening for them?
Well, it really depends on Juve, doesn't it? The 2 Milan sides, Napoli and now Atalanta, are looking at they're in that mix with Juve, who are picking up points, not playing all that well, but they're picking up points. Vlahovic has obviously been a major part of that rejuvenated Juve. But yeah, obviously it's going to be neck and neck for that 4th spot. I think if Atalanta continue this way, look, personally, I don't think that Juve are going to get there for the Scudetto. I know people are talking about that. I don't think personally they will, but so it's going to be a battle for that for the Champions League spot between Atalanta and Juve, I feel, at this stage. So do they play each other again? I'm not sure, but
I don't think Juve play Atalanta again. From what I know, Juve's difficult fixtures that they've got left are Inter. They've already played Milan twice. I think they might have played Napoli twice as well, to be honest. So I know they've got one big fixture left, and I think that they've only played you guys once as well. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, we played them this week. So
that's right.
Atalanta at home. Going by the form that they showed against Sampdoria, not looking forward to that. Although it is at the Olimpico, so
no, they don't play each other again, because I remember now they played each other about 2 weeks ago. Malinowski scored a goal, and then Juve equalized right at the depth. I think Danilo might have got it.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. So they've if you can call our game difficult, but from then on in, it sounds like they've got a pretty an easier run than the other side. So look, it's going to be a battle right up to the last round. But we can talk about that later.
Yeah, absolutely, man. These guys with a late 94th minute finish, Napoli, Fabian Ruiz, what a moment for him. He had Spalletti praying, doing the sign of the cross to Jesus at the end of the game. It was actually quite beautiful to see. Nice to see him and Sarri getting along as well on the sidelines. It was just a really, really good game to watch, man, because I actually ended up watching the replay back when I got home from school. I was more keen probably than you were when Pedro banged in that equalizer, and he's just a class act, an absolute class act wherever he goes. He might not be putting in the effort and the 100% engine that he has, but that's because he knows he just possesses one of those natural Spanish skill sets. Everywhere he goes, he's just got a touch of quality and class. And I thought he might have held Napoli to a point, but in the end, Fabian Ruiz shows that little bit of grit and fight. And I dare say with 10 games to go, I know there's still, 11 games to go, whatever it is. I know there's a lot of football still to play, but Napoli must be thinking now, you got to include yourself in the conversation just as much as anybody else, and got to say that we're going for it. It's no longer a case of how much longer can we separate ourselves from fifth. We're going for this title now. Would you agree, Adam?
Yeah, and Armando has spoken about this, regularly on the show over previous weeks, where he said, he's not looking at the top, he's looking at fifth spot because they want to secure that Champions League. But now we're getting to the business end of the season, and they're within touching distance of the top. I think they need to be included in that discussion for the Scudetto. They're playing well enough. I mean, how good was that Ruiz finish at the end? It was just an unbelievable finish under a bit of a pressure cooker, being the last minute and needing those 3 points to stay in touch. But yeah, look, they're definitely in the conversation. I think they're as good, if not in better form, than the two leaders at the moment. I mean, we say two leaders because Inter's got a game in hand, but I think it's a three-way finish to this Scudetto, and it's going to go right down to the wire. In terms of this game, look, I think probably a draw might have been a fair result in the end, but yeah, Napoli pushed all the way. Just on Pedro, I mean. Yeah, it was quite disappointing for us last season. I think the major factor for that was he wasn't healthy. He wasn't injured. He was injured for a lot of the season. So good on him for turning the corner. And even at his age, he's still been able to turn it on and score those types of goals, which I don't like to see, but of course. But good for him. But yeah, and Spalletti running to the curva. Seen that before?
You and me both, man, to be honest. Although he was more so walking to the curva when he was at Inter. But yeah, I know you've seen him run to it before.
Yeah. But it's just good to see. It was a good finish to the game, and unbelievable finish from Ruiz. Interesting point. And I was hoping that Diamo was going to be here for this, because I was going to ask him about Insigne. It's just a really weird situation at the moment, isn't it? Because he's scoring the goal and he's still like beating his chest and pointing to the badge, and I'm like, no, man, don't do that. Like it's actually it's a little bit insulting to the supporters, I reckon.
It is a little bit.
Yeah, he signed. Remember when he signed? He travelled to Rome to sign that contract the day before a game. Which caused, Mount Vesuvius erupted because of that. So the Napoli press just went crazy on that. But I don't know what sort of I don't know. I'm interested to see what sort of reception he gets, like in years to come when he returns to Napoli, because obviously that's where he's going to live when he's retired and what have you. Maybe a touch of Cannavaro, because that the Napoli faithful are divided on Cannavaro, and I think the same thing's going to happen to Insigne once he quits football.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, man. Well said. Let's move on to these guys here. It's all about one guy, Dusan Vlahovic, 80 million and worth every single penny at the moment, because he was the focal point and the reason why that Allegri can keep playing this disastrous Allegri ball and now bank on maybe 40%, 50% extra chance that you'll come away with a result that you wouldn't have prior in the season. He is the difference maker. He is absolutely phenomenal, and he's definitely the reason why I think most of us are convinced that not only will Juventus pip Atalanta to fourth position. I'm an Inter fan, so you got to think whatever realistic expectations Adam puts on Juventus, I need to add a layer of absolute negativity on top of it and say I think they're right back in this Scudetto race, because when I see that there are still 10, 11 games left for us, I look at it and go, yeah, still a little bit of points, it's still a fair few points to overturn. But all of those games just look like they're going to get harder and harder towards the end of this season. Some of the form in these mid-table to bottom-table sides, it's still worrying. And at the end of the day, Empoli still had Juventus on toast for the last 11 minutes of that game as well. That could have easily ended 3-3. Did you manage to catch any of this game? And what do you think of Dusan's form at the moment, man? It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, I did catch this game. I thought that Empoli could have snuck a point in here, and they had a really good chance right at the death of the match. And I'm just going to, I know that you keep, and we've spoken about this off air, about Juve being back in this title race. I personally don't think they're showing, I mean, they're racking up points, don't get me wrong. I just don't think they're showing enough good form to constitute the opinion of being back in this title race. Like, let's look at the goals they conceded, right? I know there was that scramble in the box. Bonucci probably could have cleared that. Got the bad rub of the green there, and the ball ended up in the back of the net. I want to focus in on that second goal because that's where I think the issues are. So, and you touch on it. So a Ligue ball, right? So the ball's coming from the corner. The ball's popped out. They've played the ball across the goal and gone the other side to recycle. But in doing so, they've all the Juve midfielders have sat on the edge of the box. In that instance, right, like coaching fundamentals, one player has to step out to the ball. You can't draw that pressure when you've already got 8-9 men behind the ball. So one needs to step out to the ball to either stop that cross or delay. So delay until you get your right shape back. So the ball got switched from side to side, comes over, they scored. And I think there are a few issues in the way that Juve is set up, and they're relying on this man now. So if you take Vlahovic out of that team now, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Like it would be a non-conversation because we wouldn't even consider Juve to be back in the title race. So look, it's literally pop the ball, get it up there. Hopefully Vlahovic does his thing and they score a goal. I saw a really good composure, I thought, from Cuadrado to square that ball back to him when he could have let go. So some good combination play in that front third for Juve. But if this man goes missing for a couple of games, and that's where I'm trying to get at. If he goes missing for a couple of games, or he's suspended, or he's injured, I think that's where the crossroads are. So I think that's where we say Juve are not a factor, and they won't be a Scudetto contender. So he might play every game from here on in until the end of the season. Okay, so they might sort of get close, but I think that if he either goes down, he hits a couple of games where he's not in good form, I think that's where the difference is going to be.
That's what I'm banking on, man. Him playing every game until the end of the season. Did you say that you guys have them this weekend?
No, we've got Atalanta.
No, you've got Atalanta. That's right. You've already played Juve twice, haven't you?
Correct, yeah. Remember the 3-1 game that we lost 4-3?
Oh, trust me, I remember that one. I forget the first one, but I remember that one, bro, very, very well. I know Juve have Spezia, I think, this weekend, and I know that they got a pretty easy run up until they face us on the 3rd of April. So I always told myself I'll analyze their situation when we come out of that game in Turin. So we'll see what happens there. But as for now, let's talk about this incident and this gentleman right here. There's a lot to talk about for Roma today. I'm excited. I'm excited to just hand the mic over to you completely off the cuff. Just talk.
Oh, let's just start with the game. I think the XG was 4.5. So, and we only scored one in the 98th minute. So it's one of those games where we pretty much, I guess you could say, we did dominate for the entire game. I mean, Spezia had a couple of chances where Rui Patricio was really well positioned to save. But really, we just could not put one of those games where the ball just would not go in. We hit the post twice through Pellegrini and Cristante. In that action where the penalty was awarded, we hit the crossbar twice in half a second. But just we pounded that goal. Provedel had the game of his life, which is what happens when goalkeepers play against Roma. But then the incident. So the incident itself, for those who are living on another planet and haven't seen it yet, the ball. There was a scramble in the box. Literally went for about 5 minutes. He scrambled in the 6-yard box. But before that, the reason why it got there was Zaniolo headed the ball against the crossbar. But in that action of heading the ball, he was kicked in the face which the image on the right is obviously during the match, and the image on the left is a few hours after the match concluded. And it went to VAR, and rightly so, it was awarded a penalty. I don't think there's any contention in that. I know Thiago Motta said afterwards that it wasn't a penalty, and the Spezia deserve an apology. But I think proof in the pudding, looking at this photo, and if you look at Zaniolo's Instagram yesterday, there's even a photo that looks worse than this, where he's actually got his eyes puffed out. So Tammy Abraham steps up, massive pressure on the guy. He slots it home right in front of the Roma faithful, and happy days. I was jumping around my lounge room, obviously. I didn't actually watch the penalty. I had my head in my hands, and I was just listening to the commentary.
Yeah.
I watched it on DAZN in Italy. But it was obviously a good win for us. Amazingly, and I don't know if anyone's picked up on this, we're unbeaten in more than a month in Serie A. So,
bro, what's the realistic finish for you guys coming into the end of the season? Because your run is actually pretty tough when I consider who you've got in your squad, and obviously you've got no Conference League, do you? You're not playing European football at the moment.
Yeah, we've got.
Oh, you are, aren't you? You're playing Vitesse, aren't you?
Yeah, we're playing Vitesse in the round.
Where are they from again?
Holland.
Holland, that's right. Yeah.
So we've got them on the 10th and the 17th of March. We play away first and then home. And you're right, Anthony, because remember a few weeks ago we spoke about the points that we should have racked up in the last four.
Yeah.
Spezia, Sassuolo, Genoa. Who else was in there? I think there was someone else. I can't remember. Verona. They're games that we needed to rack up those points. Aside from the ones that we should have picked up, months ago, like your Venezias and all those sort of teams. But you're right, we're moving into part of the season now where we're going to have some tough games, and we should have picked up those points already. Pellegrini said yesterday that he's still hopeful of fourth place. I obviously don't think that's within reach for us. I think fifth place is probably would be a massive achievement, and sixth is probably where I think that we'll most likely finish. But if we can have a good Conference League run, you know how much Mourinho loves a trophy. So yeah, look, there's still a lot to play for us. And then looking further ahead, of course, the next Mercato is the critical one for us and for Mourinho.
Yeah. Big games left, man. You still have to play us. I know that. I know you still have a derby. I know you still play Napoli as well. And I'm pretty sure you have to play Fiorentina at some point in Florence, because I remember your return leg. Other than that, I think you're done. As I said, with Juve, you've played Milan twice, and that's all I remember for you guys. I think that's it. So Atalanta, definitely, probably your toughest calendar fixture. Is it in Bergamo?
No, it's in Roma.
No, last time you went to Bergamo, you beat them in fine fashion. I remember. We were very pessimistic going into it.
Yeah, probably our best game of the season, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. So that's got to add a little bit of confidence coming in this week. Just a little bit.
So he's continuing to play or to have those youngsters in the squad too, which is good to see. The fellow on the right, Roman born, but represents Poland, Nikola Zaluski, started his game for Roma. And he did okay. He's a handy little player. So, he's still showing faith in the youngsters.
Yeah, absolutely. The Veneto derby ends in delight for Giovanni Simeone, a hat-trick for him. 15 goals altogether this season, but he's definitely a player that scores them in blocks, you know what I mean? He's not that guy that's going to score a goal every single game. He's going to really stat pad himself with 7 or 8 solid games to get those 15 goals that he's played. But altogether, I noticed this when I watched the highlights, and that's why I picked this image. He's really stocked up like a little bit of beef over the last 6 to 9 months. He's definitely gotten a lot tougher, which was one of his weaknesses when he was coming up and playing in his other clubs. So I think he's actually ready for a move next. And as an Inter fan who is looking at our striker situation, which on paper still looks decent, but we all know is actually teetering by a thread, Joaquin Correa, Lautaro Martinez, Eden Dzeko, Alexis Sanchez, on paper looks great. One's injured, one's too old, one's paid way too much, and one's paid way too much, doesn't want to deliver the form. So, at the end of the day, it's not looking good. And the Giovanni Simeone, if he can keep his wage right, I think he'd actually be a decent addition to us. What do you think this guy's next move is, man? I'm super curious, Adam. And altogether, Verona just quietly are 9th under Igor Tudor. Fantastic at the moment.
They're only a couple of points behind us. I think it was 3 or 4. Yeah, we've said this. Remember those goals, those cracking goals that he was scoring a couple of months back, and we had this same conversation about could he replicate this sort of form in a better team? There's those players that when they move to a bigger club, they just flounder, and I'm just worried that might happen to him if he does. But in saying that, and I'm as you know, I'm a huge football romantic. I'd love, and as much as I don't like Diego Simeone, I'd love to see his son play in at the same club he did, whether it's Inter or Lazio. But if it's just the romantic side of things, to see him play, if he was to go to Inter, to see him play for the same club his dad did, and to succeed there potentially would be great. But yeah, look, I have to laugh because just the negativity coming out of your mouth about your front line.
Bro, we'll get to them. Don't worry, man. That's why it's way down on the agenda. We're just taking care of the housekeeping.
If you think that Simeone would add something to your front three, then by all means, in the summer, go for it. But he's had a really good season. He's been in Italy for a long, long time, and this is obviously his best season. I think a lot has to do with his tutelage under Tudor as well. He's done wonders with his squad.
Yeah, he really, really has. Man, talk about doing wonders. We all sort of knew it was going to get better. We knew when Matchday came in, it was going to get better. We just wanted to know when. Unbeaten in 5. Couple of wins to go with it. Just quietly, the only clubs that have gotten more points than Cagliari in Serie A so far in 2022, Milan, Napoli, and Juve, I'm pretty sure. So with 3 wins in their, I think they've got 3 wins in their last 5, or 2 in their last 5, 3 in their last 6, something like that. Fantastic, good for them. It looks like they might actually be able to stay up at the end of the day. When I look at the table, they're 1 space off the drop zone, 3 points ahead of Venezia. They've played 1 game more, but in this particular fixture, they've beat Ivan Juric's men in Torino, and that's a pretty decent result because Juric's men are tough to beat, and they're even tougher to beat when they're at home at the Olimpico. So this was a pretty big result for Mazzarri's men away from home, Adam.
What is it about Cagliari in Genoa that, that latter part of the season, every single season, they just manage to do something to stay up? It's just unbelievable. So obviously the change in coach at both of those clubs has proved fruitful. But in relation to Cagliari, I'm really disappointed with Torino, to be honest, Ant, because we hyped up Juric, at the start of the season with some of those good results that he had, and they've just gone back to being that same old Torino for me. But you're right, Cagliari just out of the blocks over the last couple of months, and looking likely to potentially stay up. When like if you go back to episode, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 episodes back, we're like, nah, Cagliari are definitely going down. Look, there's no way they're going to stay up. Remember?
I remember, bro. I remember clearly. And I remember jacking up Juric as well. And like literally we sit here 5 games later, Juric hasn't won a game and Mazzarri has got Cagliari out of the drop zone. That's Serie A for you, Ben.
I know. It's just unbelievable. But and that's what we love. Like, it's becoming a league that's not predictable at all. And If we could choose that over knowing who's going to win it and knowing who's going to go down every season, we'd choose the former. So brilliant to see. And the season up at the top and at the bottom is going to go down to the absolute wire. So those last couple of rounds, I hope they won't do it for the last round because they'll play all those games at the same time. But the round before, I'm hoping that they spread out those matches so we can watch them all. But another good win for them. And you know what? Maybe it just took for them to get used to the way Mazzarri wanted them to play, and it just took longer than it should have. But yeah, he's got them like a well-oiled machine at the moment. He's really relying on that first 11 though, isn't he?
Bro, it's going to be really tough, man. I just pulled their fixtures up. They've got Lazio, they've got Milan, they've got Juve, Sassuolo, Inter. It's going to be tough for them to stay up. But so if they do stay up, this is a really good masterclass under Mazzarri. And if they do stay up, I'll be very, very happy for him. And for a host of these players who really had to have a kick up the cooler and realize they were stealing a wage in Serie A. You've seen how competitive Serie B is this season, man. Like, honestly, a few of these teams in Serie A need to realize not only can you go down this season, you can go down and find it difficult to come back up. So you want to avoid the drop at all costs. Let's move on, bro. Oh, I didn't even realize that was next on the agenda. This was horrible, bro. This is worse than losing 2-0 to Sassuolo. Sassuolo, we know, have got good players. Genoa don't have good players. Not at all. They're not even coached well. They never coach well because no coach can come in there and stabilize the environment. At the end of the day, they're doing a little bit better now that their new coach is at the helm. But this was, let me just speak from our front. This was really, really bad. We were slow. We were out of tune. The two men that you see on screen provided absolutely nothing technically wise after getting the ball in the final third. I said during my post-match reaction on Inter Worldwide that I thought the midfielders would have done better because Dzeko and Sanchez, despite being swamped when they had the ball, were getting themselves in really, really good goal-scoring opportunities. Every time they even came close to getting the ball, they were, flies on a piece of shit, as we would say it in Australia, man. Like, it was absolutely jam-packed. And there were a couple of times where I realized our midfielders were not moving off the ball, Barella included. They weren't making runs outside the 18-yard box, and they just weren't doing anything after they had played their final pass or realized that they'd made what they perceived to be their final contribution to that attacking build-up. It was lackluster. Simone Inzaghi's subs, while you need to trust the players you have on the bench, some of our players that are coming off the bench are disjointed because they haven't played enough this season. They're anxious when they come on as well. And I think that we're having an issue now that the clubs beneath us, like Milan and Napoli and Juve, went through at the start of the season in a sense that they could only rely on their starters and no more. And we're at that stage now. We're at that stage now where everybody needs to be on point in the starting 11 because you lose Skriniar for a game like this against Genoa, you might not win this game. You're missing Brozovic for a game against Sassuolo, you might not win that game. Hint, you don't win that game. And all of a sudden, a month ago when we sat here, Inter with a potential opportunity to open up a 7 to 8 to 9 point lead in Serie A by this point of the season, we're not first. We're not second. We're third, man. We'll albeit with a game in hand, but I like to look at the fixtures that I have played because in the form that we're in, I'm not going to sit here and guarantee a win against Bologna either. At the moment, it's not looking good. Am I optimistic that we can still recover from this? Of course. But I think the next 2 or 3 games are very, very critical for Inzaghi in terms of personnel he puts on the pitch and the way that he approaches these fixtures. In my opinion, you almost need to throw the Liverpool game. Not throw, but Adam and everybody listening will know what I mean when I say you go there and you play the players that you're not going to back up with 3.5 days later domestically. I also said this on my other channel, Adam. It's a shame that we're in this part of the season now and Salernitana is our most important game in March, because we should have been at a point where Salernitana was not as important as a game at Anfield, not as important as a first leg fixture in the Coppa Italia against Milan. But at the moment, that's more important than both of these games. And I hate that fixture coming up. I hate that fixture more than I hate a derby coming up in 12 hours. The derby in 12 hours means nothing to me because of how much I fear that Salernitana fixture coming up on the weekend. And I know it sounds crazy then coming last and everything, but we all saw how they held Milan to a 2-2 draw. So that's my piece, and I'll go over to Adam now to give his comment on Inter, and I'm sure he's got a couple of questions for me as well.
Yeah, you already touched on the game. I thought it could have gone either way, to be honest, because Genoa has as many good chances to score as Inter did. I know we were unlucky there for D'Ambrosio's header, which hit the underside of the crossbar and didn't go in. Yeah. And Çalhanoğlu had a fantastic chance in the first half. They just skimmed the outside of the post. But in saying that, Genoa had a couple of chances as well. And Danovic with that brilliant save, that ball just spun out of the air like I haven't seen before. But yeah, look, and I know that you're frustrated. I can hear frustration in your voice, and I did watch your reaction video on Inter Worldwide. But I think going into this game against Milan, I think they've probably, if I was Pioli, I'd probably be a little bit more worried about it in terms of personnel than Inzaghi is, and only for the reason that I think that your bench is a little bit longer than theirs. So if you need to rest players in this first leg, not all of them, because you want to win the tie. It is a semi-final for a trophy. But if you need to rest a couple that definitely need it, so they can go into the weekend fresh. I think you've got more aces up your sleeve in that regard than Pioli does. But look, I can't even. If I was to predict a winner for this first leg of the derby, I probably couldn't, because it's just you don't know how the teams are going to line up, and I don't know what's going through the coach's mind. So the question for you is, of course, how do you think that Inzaghi is going to approach this first leg of the Coppa Italia, knowing that a few days later, you've got a really, really important a really important game in Serie A.
So something that Inter's got that benefits them not only this season but last season and the season before under Conte is we've got a core of Italian players that really know what the value of being an Internazionale player is. Your likes of Ranocchia, who's a former captain, D'Ambrosio, Di Marco, Darmian, Gagliardini. You got these players here, plus a couple of others as well that have been at the club for a while that really know the value of a derby. And these are the sort of players that I wouldn't mind rotating and putting in this lineup for the first leg. Not all of them at the same time. I'm not stupid. But those are the players that I would say could come in and rotate for a couple of players. Like, for me personally, I need 3 points against Salernitana. So you need Skriniar to start that game on the weekend. You need Bastoni to start that game on the weekend. So maybe one of those two come out, and maybe De Vrij starts at the head of at the back three, and D'Ambrosio comes in. Maybe Ranocchia comes in. I don't know. Maybe Di Marco can come in at left centre back for Bastoni. Give those players enough rest as possible to go into the weekend fresh against the Salernitana side that we know if everybody in our starting 11 is fresh, we should be able to win that game. Same goes for the midfield. Brozovic, Barella, Hakan. I really hope Inzaghi doesn't play with all three in the derby. I don't want to go into Salernitana having to start Arturo Vidal. I don't want to have to go into Salernitana starting Roberto Gagliardini. I want to go into Salernitana and put them away within 45 minutes and know that we haven't coughed up the Scudetto. That's really important to me. And I know that some fans might disagree. And I spoke to a couple of fans, and one of them highlighted, the people from Milan will think differently to you. The people from Milan, you could get 11 people from the street, from either side of the street, to play each other, and that would be considered more important. I get what that means traditionally, but tradition is outdated. For me, I'm really looking about what's on paper, and the 3 points in the league are more important than winning this game. That being said, Adam, it's very important to not go into this game and throw it and completely think that, because it's a game that should go down to the second leg, and we should still have a good shot at winning that second leg and going through. I'm not saying we need to go into this game thinking, we can possibly lose. Even if we lost 2-1, it wouldn't be a disaster. Go into this game knowing that it's not a mandatory to go and sweep them aside just for confidence reasons. You come out of this first leg at 0-0, 0-1, 1-1, 2-2. All of these results are good results for Inter going forward to Salernitana. I hope that we don't put our first 11 forward, bust it, and just completely come out of it with a not so decent result, because that'll hurt. We can't take any more setbacks. And tomorrow's a day where you just need to go out there feeling positive for the next league game.
Yeah. So if you had to choose, let's look at the your front three. If you had to pick your front three for the Coppa Italia fixture, who would they be?
Well, we play with a 3-5-2 majority of the time under Inzaghi, but often enough, Perisic will come forward. Perisic will stay wide, and he's a shoo-in for that position. So if you're asking me for who my two strikers are up top, Dzeko needs a rest because he's just unfocused, man, a lot of the time. And he probably stands a better chance of anybody of putting the ball in the back of the net, even when he is tired. When you get into those jammy parts of the game where you're whipping every ball into the cross and the box is flooded and there's bodies everywhere, Eder Dzeko's a man that you want around, fatigued or not. But Lautaro Martinez also needs to be played into form. I've heard a couple of opinions from different Inter fans. You start him in the derby so that he get his confidence up in a high-profile fixture. That's a good argument. Maybe a better argument is you rest him and you start him against Salernitana. Maybe he can get a brace or really stat pad himself. Alexis Sanchez, while he claims that he should be getting more minutes, and while a lot of Inter fans love to see him play, he's just way more effective off the bench. He can't start. For me, he's out. He's the first one that can't start against Milan because he won't do anything in a game, in a derby, where neither manager really cares about winning the game. They just care about coming out with a positive result. Alexis Sanchez is not the man to start this game. Joaquin Correa apparently is fit, but this guy's a little bit fragile, bro. And I don't know if you can start him, even if it is just the first leg of a semi-final in the Coppa Italia. The last time we started him was in the Coppa Italia against Empoli, and he did his back in the first 5 minutes just because someone used his shoulders as weight to get to the header first. So I don't know about that. So it really does only leave Dzeko and Lautaro. And even as I'm saying it, I'm contradicting myself. So, as I said previously, on paper, it looks good. In theory, things aren't so, in practicality, things aren't so good, man. So no matter who starts, they need to have a good game.
Is the away goals in play?
The away goal is in play for Coppa Italia for one more season. Next season, it's gone.
Okay. Because I was just going to say, if that's the case, why don't they just make it one tie?
I don't know, man. I don't know. The final is one tie, and then they might as well. The quarterfinals are one tie, so I don't know why the semi-finals they need to change it.
No idea. But I'm saying because it's two clubs from the same stadium, might as well just make it one tie. But
Yeah.
It wouldn't be fair on the other semi-finalists.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we'll see what happens, man. Still plenty of Serie A to play for and plenty more twisters in the title race, so don't need to dwell on it too long. Anyway, don't need to dwell on the result for this too long. I don't care. We're in the end of the season. We're dropping points at home. It's going to be a normality towards the end of the season, no matter how big you are as a club. Milan, I will say, with no European football, need to start putting some points together because they can easily drop off, especially if they don't get a positive result against Napoli this week. It really shits me that we had them on ropes for 72 minutes and let our entire February derail in the space of 6 minutes because they have been pretty crap since then. This game here, they were quite good for the first 40, 45 minutes I was watching it. But then once again, they really struggle after grabbing that first goal. After grabbing that first goal, it almost looks like they really don't want to get a second. Couple of refereeing decisions going against them. The biggest one, obviously, is the goal scored by the Udinese player, which perceives to at least come off his hand at some point, whether or not it's first off the ball from the Milan defender. I'm not too sure. It went to VAR. The referee didn't end up going to check it on the monitor, meaning that they've had some sort of communication up top, but the discussion wasn't, I think you should come and take a look at this. It was more like, hold on. No, you should be fine. Start the game. I can see, like, I've watched a lot of Milan recently, Adam, man. You know, we've had some convenient kickoff times recently in Sydney, and I know that's saying a lot for Serie A, but they've had a couple decisions not go their way as of late, which if they did, they're turning around 5-6 points. I'm talking about the disallowed Macias goal against Spezia, which the more I watch it back now is probably the right decision that it didn't stand. But this one here, this one's fishy for me that it stands as a goal.
Yeah, man. And look, my compadre Anthony, as much as he tells me to get the Kleenex out whenever I start complaining about refereeing decisions, I think he's got a case this week to do so as well. Because, yeah, to not even have the referee check it, I think it's an absolute disgrace. And I don't want to harp on about it again because I've done a lot on this show. But can we just have some consistency, please? Please, it would have taken the referee 30 seconds to go over and have a look and then decide whether he actually wants to chalk it off or let the goal stand. By not doing so, it leaves a lot of doubt, and we saw it through the media post-match. It's just I don't know where they're going with VAR. It just seems like that a couple of other countries in Europe are a lot more advanced in using it than we are. I hope in the off season that they get things right with it, and we see some consistency next season. Because at the moment it's just all over the place. But in saying that, Milan need to win these games at home if they want to win the Scudetto. Simple as that. By not doing so, they've allowed Napoli to get back in. They've let Inter off the hook. When they could be 7 points clear if you look at their results over the last couple of weeks. So I sort of certainly empathise with the frustration from the Milanisti because they've had such a good season and now it would seem like they're starting to throw it away. Not to say that they can't bounce back because they're a good side and they will, but come the end of the season, if they don't win it, these will be the games that they'll be saying they'll have the what ifs about come season end. So who they got this week?
Milan this week have Napoli, and then they've got Empoli, and then I know in between there they've got games against Cagliari. This is just going off the top of my head, so it could be I'm not too sure. It's Cagliari, Bologna. I know they play Genoa again, and they need to play Atalanta, Sassuolo, and Fiorentina and Verona. So they don't have easy games left.
This week's huge.
They play Lazio as well.
Yeah, but Napoli Milan this week could be the game of the season.
It really could be, man. It really could be. I think it's the last head-to-head of any team in the top four except for Inter versus Juve. Inter versus Juve is matchday 31, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, this is huge. It will have a huge impact on how the season finishes, I think. Yeah. So if Napoli win this, they go 3 points ahead. And if you don't win your catch-up game, that puts Napoli 5 points ahead of you. So
that's it. Albeit, all we'd have to do is beat Salernitana and Bologna to be 1 point ahead in the conversation that you're having. That's how close it is, and that's how quick it would be to fall and slip.
Well, that's why I keep saying it's going to come down to match day 38. Like it may eventuate. And I'm all for it because we're out of the equation. So there's nothing for us to play for in that respect. But just because as a lover of Italian football, it's very rarely seen where it comes down to the wire. And when you think back to the occasions that it has gone down to the wire, they're really famous occasions, aren't they? I think the last time might have been. Well, there was a Napoli-Juve when Koulibaly scored in Torino, but then they let it go. For me, it was when Mourinho was at Inter, those couple of seasons, when it came down to the last game. And then obviously the most famous one was the one that where you shit the bed in Rome against Lazio. And Juve took the title. Was that 99? That was 90.
No, that was 2002. I remember the ones where you guys were behind us for a big point of the season, and then out of nowhere we just started dropping points domestically. Yeah. I think it was in the season where we won the Champions League. We took our eye off the prize completely.
We lost to Siena at home, or drew to Siena at home with 2 games to go or something.
Yeah. Oh, that might have been. Oh, yeah. There was a couple of seasons, man. There was another season under Mancini where you guys were really close, and we needed to beat Siena on the second last day of the season, and Materazzi took up to take a penalty with 3 minutes left. It was 2-2. And if he scores that penalty, we win the title. And the keeper bloody saved it. Ibrahimovic had to come off the bench against Parma in the pouring rain in the second half to win the title in the next game.
Yeah, just to keep it interesting. Matrix.
Just to keep it interesting. Adam, this was really fun, man. Thank you so much for joining us on Serie A Roundtable today. There's the ladder up there. We had a quick little discussion just then, but Milan on 57, Napoli 57, Inter with a game in hand 55. Juventus closed out the top 4 on 50. 1 game behind them on 47 is Atalanta. Roma have played 27 and are on 44. Just make sure my eyes are lining up properly. Lazio are hot on their heels, 43. Fiorentina, 42. Verona, 40. Sassuolo, 36. Torino, 33. And it just goes down from there. Man, just taking a quick look at that table. Any last comments before we move on today? There were a couple of other results that we didn't touch upon. But yeah, we'll go into them just after you have a look at the table.
Yeah, look, I think everyone's certainly familiar with, positions 1 to 4 and then, 1 to 8, depending where your teams are. But have a look at positions, 14 to 18?
Yeah.
22 to 26. It's unreal. It's unreal.
Big ups to Empoli, man, creating that little bit of a gap. If they can just stat pad another 2 or 3 wins together, that'll be enough for them to the end of the season. They're 2 or 3 wins away from survival.
Which means that every game is, especially between, say, coming up to the end of the season, those last 5 or 6 rounds are just going to be unbelievable.
Especially those relegation head-to-heads like Venezia, Cagliari and stuff like that. Some of these games are going to be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, just hammer and tongs. Like you see when you watch the championship playoffs in England. It's just like the games are the most frenetic you've ever seen. It's going to be like those types of games.
It really gets to the business end. Yeah. Sassuolo beat Fiorentina 2-1. That was a pretty good game. Red for Bonaventura, late equalizer as well, but ultimately the Viola remained inconsistent without Dusan Vlahovic there. De Frel came up with the goods for the Neroverdi, pretty much right on the bell after Arta Cabral equalized for Fiorentina. But both sides, obviously, where they need to be. I think Fiorentina can still maybe give a shout for that Europa League spot. But without Vlahovic, I just see them dropping more points than not. They do still have a game in hand there, which they win. They will still jump above you guys. How serious do you think Fiorentina can push towards the end of the season without Vlahovic?
I think that they can still rack up some points. I still believe that they're really, really well coached. I really like Italiano as a coach. What I was going to say though is there another team from a neutral perspective you like watching more than Sassuolo? Like I'm always entertained every time I watch them play. Doesn't matter if they're winning or losing. They're such a good team to watch, and Dionisi must be giving a pat on the back for what he's done this season with the squad he's got. I know Scamacca. Fratesi's come out of nowhere, right? I mean, I knew he was a decent player, but he's really stepped up this season. Apart from that front 3. There's not a lot behind. You know what I mean? Like, they lost Bolgar, who didn't play a lot this season. Traore is a decent player, but...
I honestly think that Berardi is one of the most underrated players in Serie A. Now he's been doing it consistently, season in, season out. He's warranted himself a move. I'll be very surprised if he sticks around there next season, man. It's time for him to go to a bigger club.
Yeah, the thing is that they'll probably cash in on Scamacca and Raspadori though, and
Yeah.
because of that, they'll be able to keep him. So
Yeah.
I don't think he's like a Belotti. He's never actually requested a transfer.
Is he captain?
Yeah, I think Magnanelli's not playing anymore. So yeah, I think he is. So yeah, it's interesting.
It's still Magnanelli, but yeah, he's not playing anymore. So maybe it is Berardi as the vice captain.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting. Interesting to see what happens next Mercado for him. But yeah, like I said, I think with Scamacca's definitely going to leave by what we're reading. Raspadori could be on his way out as well. So yeah, there might be a reason for them to keep him because they can afford to keep him. So
maybe interesting times indeed. Adam, thanks again for joining us on Serie A Roundtable. It was very, very enjoyable.
Thanks, guys, and Forza Serie A, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much from all of us here at Football Worldwide. Grazie mille. Ciao ragazzi.